In Kenya, watu wanapenda sana kujijengea. And in professional terms, we call it self-contracting. And one of the big issues with self-contracting is where you buy materials and then you look for Fundis, you hire them, you supervise them, and then you get your construction project going. And one of the big problems of self-contracting is the labor aspect, because the people who are building the house, basically the client, does not have the knowledge, the experience, all the expertise to inspect and supervise whatever the Fundi is doing, so they cannot really tell if they are getting a good job, if they are getting value for money. And so in this video, we are going to be talking about a very critical aspect of building for yourself, which is the labor aspect, and narrowed down to how to know whether you are hiring a good Fundi, how to know whether the Fundi you are hiring is actually someone who is going to get the job done, or it's someone who is going to add you to a statistic ya watu ambao wamefanywa mbaya hii Nairobi. People have hired Fundis and then they have ended up doing work that had to be redone, work that had to be demolished, and that is a direct cost that you're going to incur. So let's get down to it. My name is Harry the Builder. Number one, how do you know that you're hiring a good Fundi? The first thing is that a good Fundi respects the job. There are small aspects, small rules and protocols that come with the job. For example, the time for coming in, the time for leaving, lunch hours. Yeah? Don't do this, don't do this. In Mjengo sites, there's even rules about the use of the washroom. So, and you tend to find that the good Fundis don't have problems with following these small rules. Like coming, reporting to work, you find who are achelewi. If it's lunchtime, you find they are just on time. When at 2 p.m. when the lunch break is over, they have already started or they are already back to work. But you tend to find these guys, they are the ones who come late, they are the ones who extend the lunch hour, they are the ones who are just dragging. If there is an issue, maybe about security or use of the washroom or the store, they are just the ones who end up with these things. And this is big red flag. And before we continue, I want to state that we are dealing with people here. We are not dealing with items or property. So the lines are a bit gray. There is no black and white. I have not told you that you go and fire your Fundi because he came late today. The lines are a bit gray. These are just pointers. These are just pointers to help you realize whether you're hiring a good Fundi or not. The second thing that can help you realize whether you have hired a good Fundi or not is how they respond to inconveniences. Construction is a process that involves a lot of processes. There is materials, there is procurement, there is your transport guy, there is msewa hardware, there is where the client, there is people that need to be paid, there is Fundi, there is mtu wa mkono. And managing all these people, one day or another, there ought to be an inconvenience. Maybe your cement supplier hakuwa na simiti that day, so he had to go fetch it early in the morning, so it came late to the site. You hired them to mkono and then they did not show up. This happened, and you have small inconveniences within that process. For example, you hire a Fundi and then the next day he has mtu wa mkono, and then the next day the mtu wa mkono does not show up. Yeah? So how these Fundis respond to those small inconveniences, simiti imechelewa, you can really tell whether you're hiring a good Fundi or not. That one is as simple as it is. Because even in other sectors, when you tend to hire good people, the inconveniences at work can be worked around. Yeah, but if you find a bit of stubbornness, oh, today we are not doing this because simiti ilichelewa or something, just know that you need to be more watchful and more careful with the people, with the Fundis that you hired. Number 3, and one of my favorite, is the tools, the toolbox. In Kenya, Fundis don't have a toolbox or a toolkit. They use this kagunia ya 10 kgs ya unga ya ugari. Soko, jogoo. I know you have seen it. And this is what the fundis use to carry their tools. Hapo ndio ameweka his trowel, his spirit level, kamba, grumara, everything. That is what they use to carry. And the good fundis tend to have a complete or a near complete toolkit. So, and then on the vice versa, the not so good fundis tend to show up to work with just the basic minimum. Yeah, if you hire a carpenter and then amekuja tu ameshika nyundo, he doesn't have a level, he doesn't hana lad, hana kamba, hana. So, and that is one of the red flags. Because, for example, if you're hiring masons, the masons who are good at their job, they tend to have almost everything. Yeah, akona trowel, actually akona trowel kubwa na ndogo, akona gurumara, akona steel float, akona chumaraini, akona kabiru, akona kamba. He has almost everything he needs for the job. So he won't be the guy who is running around a site borrowing tools, sending his mtu wa mkono, kimbia kwa fundi fulani uniombe kamba, kimbia huko uniombe kabiru. And this one is a lot of lost productivity for you as a client. So you need to really insist that the fundis you're hiring, they need to come with a full toolkit. They need to have almost every tool that they are going to need. And this is, sometimes it's a bit difficult to know, because some sites have up to 100, 200 workers. So it's really difficult to realize who is slowing the others down, because he doesn't have A, B, and C. It's like that kid in class who doesn't have a book, he doesn't have a pen, so he's just disturbing the rest. Yeah? And I have also used these as a very simple elimination process, because sometimes you put out a notice that you're looking for 5 fundis and then 15 fundis show up. So how do you know the 5 fundis you have? And if you have been to Mjengo site, you can know it's not clean cut. It's not like hiring for a job where you can interview, ask for certificates and everything. So I used to tell them, let me see your toolkit. And then you're going to realize that the good fundis have almost everything they need, as opposed to the not so good fundis. I won't call them bad fundis. The fourth one is workplace politics. If you have worked anywhere, I know you understand the concept of workplace and corporate politics. They are there everywhere, even in big offices. And mjengo and construction sites are not spared. And what makes workplace politics worse in a mjengo site is that the people working there, all of them, or close to everyone there, is temporary, is a casual worker. They don't have a pension to lose, they don't have a medical fund to lose, they don't have that. You're simply paying them a day rate. So you can pay them today and they don't show up tomorrow. So even if the politics messes up the job, they will just leave the next day, they get paid, and then they go to another site and continue with the job. So they have little to lose. And so the workplace politics tends to, they are actually very petty, and they tend to blow up and affect the project in general. And they're usually small things, like sometimes, maybe let's say the pay is late. In Kenya, the week runs from Monday to Saturday, and then the fundis are paid on Saturday at around 1 p.m. So sometimes the money is late, and then the guys are being paid at around 2 p.m. And you tend to find that the good fundis are the ones who have actually that little patience of waiting for the money up to that 2 p.m. And then the not so good fundis are the ones who are inciting the rest. At, oh, we want to do this, oh, CGV, we want to do this. So if the money was late this weekend, and then on Monday you have a fundi telling you, at this today I want to be paid before the job, because last time I did the job and then the money was late. And then there are also, not basically the pay, there are also other areas where the client is exposed to a lot of politics. And when you find that your site has just all these siasa every time ni siasa tu, sijui, oh, this person did, oh, this person did, and most of them are not concrete matters, they are not tangible matters, they're just petty politics. So when you tend to hire fundis that are not so good, for lack of a better word, you expose yourself to a lot of unnecessary politics. But when you hire good fundis, you just get, the job is getting done. Sometimes even you're not present, but you come back the next day and you find kazi ilifanyika. But if you come back the next day to a lot of politics, a lot of siasa, just know somewhere within your workforce there is a spoiled apple, there is a bad apple that is spreading politics to the rest. And the last one, and number 5, is actually one of the very good methods to separate. Say you have a batch of many fundis, you want to separate the good ones from the not so good ones, the wheat from the chaff. So what you do is that you give them a piece rate. Instead of paying them a day rate, that I'm going to pay you this amount of money per day. For example, the rate for a fundi in Kenya is ranging from anywhere between 1,000, 1,200 to 2,000. Some even as high as 2,500, depending on the skill set of the fundi. So instead of paying this fundi X amount per day, 1,300 per day, you pay them per job completed. Unamgawia kazi. Yeah, like for example, it's masonry. This number of foot, 150, 200 foot a day, is this amount of money. Yeah, if say their offloading is one cement is 3 bob, that kind of thing. And when you do that, you tend to separate the wheat from the chaff, because a fundi will be really focused on finishing his job, and then the fundi that is not so good at his job is going to trail behind. He's not going to be able, either hamalizi kipimo ama anafanya kazi mbaya. And then with the piece rate, they can't really cover for each other, because when the good fundi leaves his workstation, ameenda kusaidia the other fundi, he's directly losing money. So they don't really cover for each other. It's also another way to know, for example, in the point earlier about tools. That is, it will be very easy to identify who has tools na nani hana, because he'll just be running around and asking for tools from the rest. Lakini kama he is good at what he does, he has everything, the job is set, you just find kazi imefanyika vizuri sana. And another advantage of piece rate is that it reduces your engagement in supervision of the job, because you're just going to come in the evening, check what the fundi has done, measure, and then if you're paying them, they get paid, as opposed to the daily rate where you have to supervise them now and then to make sure they continue working. Usiwalipe per day alafu waende wakalale. So another way to know is give them a piece rate. And that has been it, but I'm going to give you a quick recap on the video on how to know whether you're hiring a good fundi. I said, number 1, a good fundi respects the job and even the small rules and protocols or demands that come with the job. Number 2, a good fundi is able to work around inconveniences. There are inconveniences that are totally off, and you as a client need to get your stuff together, you need to fix stuff, but there are small things that cannot be avoided day to day, and most of the time the good fundis you find a way to work around this. And then the third one is the tools. A good fundi, more often than not, usually have a complete or near complete toolkit. They have almost every tool they need. And this also applies even in other professions. People who are good at their job, they have almost every tool they need to do the job. They are not running around, oh, hana hii, they don't have this, they don't have this. And then number 4 is workplace politics. If you leave your mjengo site today and tomorrow, instead of coming back to a job done, you're coming back to a lot of siasa duni. And most of these things come out to you as just petty things. Sorry to burst your bubble, but you might have not hired the best people for the job. That is number 4. And then number 5, the last one, is a piece rate. When you give a fundi a piece rate, if he's a good fundi, it's going to be very evident. If it's not so good at his job, it's also going to be very clear for you. And I hope those 5 pointers are going to guide you as you continue building your own house, as you continue with your journey of being a homeowner. And it has been a pleasure to do this with you. My name is Harry the Builder. See you in the more consecutive videos.